I've never been your average anything, and I'm not even your average Aspie. I'm developing this theory about Generation X women. I am Generation X, who, like, we had boomer parents who were, they were the end. The boomers were the end of an entirely different breed of parenting that was much more mean. And for the boomers, like the boomers who were traumatized as children and grew up and became adults who traumatized their own kids. Like I'm one of those. I was raised by my dad and my stepmom, and my biological mother did not come into my life until I was almost 7 years old, or I was 7. I'm not exactly. It was first grade. Dad and my stepmother were married when I was 4 years old, and before that, I lived with my grandmother. When my dad and stepmom got married, everything was gravy until my younger sister was born, and then that's when everything changed in my head. I'm just trying to say I had a really mean dad, and even more mean. No, yeah, they were both fucking mean parents who traumatized the holy fuck out of me in ways that were just absolutely diabolical. The normal average person wouldn't think of as child abuse, like tickling. My dad tickling me as a child, blocked out the tickling to such a degree that I completely forgot about the tickling until just recently. I find out I'm autistic. Trait of autism is like, we don't like to be touched. We just don't like to be touched. Like talking about it. I've never been one that likes to be touched. It's always awkward for me. It's always a fail on my end. You know, they go in for the hug, so I'm bad at it, and then it turns into a dance. I had to learn early to just kind of definitely read the room for huggers first. Get a sense at the beginning of the conversation if the person is going to be a hugger. Figure that out and kind of back away before I think the hugging part is about to commence. And my aversion to being hugged, it didn't end with family members, and huggy family members were the ones that confused me the very most, because my family that I lived with, we didn't touch. There was no touching. There was the extended family members, say like on my mom's side, but yeah, I'd have to go mingle with the huggers on mom's side. And looking back, I remember as a child hating it, but now when I'm looking back, I can remember just really being freaked out about. There was about like 2 or 3 of them that just, including my stepdad was one of them. But I always like endured them as much as I could. I would end up having to pull away from my stepdad and run. It was hard to get away from him because of the grabby and holding nature of his hug. It confused me because the social cues I got was that I'm supposed to hug. That's what, by watching other people, like at school or on TV, and what they did, they hugged. I thought, that's what you're supposed to do, even though I didn't want to do it. So for family members, I would actually try to accommodate them with the hugs, but it was hard. And I'm also young, having 2 different sides of my life. Like, these people are completely different from these people, and I'm having to integrate the 2. Really, I wanted to melt into the floor and it just to go away and the world to explode when that happened. We now resume the original scheduled program. All of us were latchkey kids. All of us had really there but not their parents. You know what I mean? They were there, but they weren't there. Or maybe they weren't there. It was 1, 2, 3, or all 3, or none. That's just how it was in the 80s. The white kids' parents were drunk. Like my mom, I only remember seeing my mother sober a few times in my life. She drank herself to death. So did her mother. And all the black kids' parents were on crack. So only rules were when the street lights Come on. They would tell us not to eat everything out of the Halloween bag until they checked it for razors. But no, they never really actually checked it for razors. I noticed that. I'm off track again. I'm not saying this is a fact or anything, but I think there are many undiagnosed, but probably more accurately, like my case, misdiagnosed Generation X women who probably will never be diagnosed, or maybe they will, I don't know, but mostly because they're running around having no clue they are even on the spectrum. I never even entertained the notion of it till I was 46, but it's because there's no awareness, and so that's my point in this. And there needs to be more awareness, because I think most people think autism equals trains, headphones. Sorry, I gotta go off topic with trains. Yeah, okay, so back to the diabolical cruelty. Christmas, 1983. I get a badass, like Santa Claus, believes me, this badass real train. Like it was on a nail. Oh my God, it was amazing. It was that my dad never let me touch or play with. Those are parts of the spectrum. That's why it's a spectrum. But the spectrum is huge. It's a big ass spectrum, and then that's why I'm making these types of videos now for this YouTube channel. Even though I honestly would rather be spending my time on TikTok.